Well, that's the Smiths track Meat is Murder, obviously, which put some rather disturbing images over. Now, I know vegetarianism is thought to be a good thing, but isn't it mankind being a little vain to think that we're not part of the food chain? Do you see what I mean? Every animal has to kill to live, even if it's just plants.
Animals do, human beings don't. It's unnecessary. People survive without meat. It's just really ignorance, I think, and people eat meat, I think, for negative reasons.
What do you think those reasons are?
They just really can't be bothered to think about animal cruelty, or they can't be bothered to think of another diet. I mean, it's too much trouble for people to really sit down and think, well, if I didn't eat this, what could I possibly eat? People just, you know, food is just this ritual. Breakfast, it's toast. Dinner, it's meat and whatever. So it's just really, people have to be made aware of the situation, really. Most people don't know any details about vegetarianism or animal slaughter.
It's always been associated with a young person's thing, vegetarianism anyway, hasn't it? Back in the 60s as well.
Yes.
You're obviously still just appealing to young people, but how do you think you're going to get this over to the older generation?
Well, if the message can be really cemented within the younger generation, I think that's enough. Everything else should hopefully just come in time. But I think it's wishful thinking to try and do too much at once. So I know from the letters I receive hundreds of letters every single day from people who've said, we heard this record and now we're vegetarian. So it's a success.
Right, for the moment, Morrissey, thanks very much. I'll come back to you in part two, but first of all, we're going to see a recorded track. This is White China. Well, that was a big country, just like a shadow, and with no connection whatsoever, I'm glad to say. Morrissey is still here in the studio. Morrissey, the other thing you had a reputation for a while back was criticising every other band in the music business. I mean, you haven't done that for a while. Have you
They
lost
haven't really given me the chance for a long time. I think I've been blacklisted. Yes, I did that for a long time. I thought it was necessary. Well, everybody was, you know, slowly going to sleep towards the end of 1983, and I felt that they had to be woken up somehow, so...
Is it as bad now, do you think? I mean, does it still depress you, things that are happening?
I think it's changed, but it's still quite glum, really. The old boy network is as strong as ever, and I think that's boring.
What do you mean, the old boy network in the music business?
I think we have our clump of people who will always be on television and who will manipulate airwaves, etc.
Like who?
Well, I could name names, but it's proved in the past not to be very practical for me. I tend to meet people in corridors and studios, etc., and they're always taller than me. So.
Do you think things are going to change any? Because everyone's waiting for this enormous big sensation. It's going to happen again, like the way Punk did and everything. It hasn't yet, has it?
I don't know. I think it's difficult. I think doors are still firmly closed, and I think I know that because the Smiths found it difficult in several areas. I felt that people were just unwilling to have change. And for instance, the Jesus and Mary Chain single never had one national daily airtime play, so that proves something.
Why, do you think they're particularly anarchic? Do you think Jesus and Mary Chain are doing anything new?
Well, whether they did or not, they never really had the chance to get their fair share of exposure. And I feel when people say no to new groups, they're really saying yes to Black Lace and the way things always have been.
Is that because perhaps they're a little frightened of new things?
Well, I think everybody's comfortable in what they do, and why should it really be changed? And of course, that's a very stale situation.
Right, well, let's have another snatch of the Smiths and see, we'll see things that aren't old-fashioned, and this is really good stuff.